Welcome back to another episode of Endurance Insights. Thanks for tuning in. This week, I'm going to cover, with fall running season coming up, a bit of a topic around some race predictors type of workouts you can do to get an idea of where your current fitness is at so that you can come up with a good race strategy, a sustainable race strategy, so you can perfectly empty the tank and get the most out of yourself with an optimal pacing strategy. For most of these races, doing an even or slightly negative split is usually the way to go, unless obviously, and that's like effort wise, and the effort will rise on those unless it's like a downhill course that has the first 10K where you might end up going a little bit quicker for the same effort or less effort. Then that's where your paces might be a little bit quicker there, but that doesn't mean full sending the first bit. But I'm going to do ones across 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon. I'll give two examples for each. And what the goal of these is really just to help you use kind of these workouts to get a realistic race pace and finish time so you can start to dial that in. And remember, these aren't foolproof. They give you a good indication of what's done under similar conditions. So remember, if you're doing this workout and it's insanely hot out and you're racing in cooler conditions, maybe you can go a little faster. The opposite is true. If you are doing this in super cool conditions, but you're going to a hot race, you're probably going to have to run slower. Obviously, terrain is another one. If you're doing it on this workout on a hilly course, but racing on a flat course, you might have the chance to run a little bit faster on that. Remember, footwear is super huge. So, depending on the people, these carbon super shoes can be anywhere from like 2 to 5% run economy gains for people. So if you're using some rickety training shoes and then you're getting into some faster racing shoes, again, you might be able to get a few seconds per kilometer or mile as well in there. Um, in terms of these predictor workouts, don't forget you can always, if you have a recent race result, plug it into the like Daniels V dot calculator. So just Google Daniels V DOT and plug in a race result, and it'll extrapolate across all the different distances and give you conversions for that, as well as sort of easy paces, different training paces. There is some caveats to that. For example, if I had a athlete who's super strong on the top end side of things. Maybe they came from CrossFit or hockey background and they can crush a 5K result, but they haven't done many long runs or ever run a marathon before. That 5K result might skew their marathon result to look faster. So I'd be getting them to go a lot more conservative for a marathon until they've built up that sort of mileage or proved it over one of these race predictor workouts. But that 5K result could get them very close to what they should be pacing for a 10K or even a half marathon if they have some long runs under the belt. And obviously, the same thing rolls. Like I personally am usually stronger over the half marathon and marathon. My top end 5 and 10K pace is very close to my half marathon. So if I used a half or marathon result and tried to run that for 5K, I probably couldn't do it unless I put a good block of 5K training in there. So just remember, there's always caveats based on where you are in terms of what your training sort of age is and what you've been doing over the last little while and what you've been focusing on and where your physiology is at. So just remember that. And then also some of these longer workouts, definitely you need to remember that fueling is at play for this. So anything longer than call it 90 minutes. If you're not fueling the work or hydrating well enough in the conditions, then these can affect performance a lot. So remember with most athletes were aiming for 40 to 70 plus grams per hour. Faster athletes need to go on the higher side of things because they're burning more calories. So they would be aiming for maybe more like 60 to 90 grams per hour. And then there is precision fuel and hydration. They have their on their website a sample kind of fuel hydration sodium questionnaire you can put in, and it will give you guidance around how much you should be taking in terms of fluids and sodium. A great one to eventually get tested at one of the precision labs or one of the other ones out there. But yeah, just making sure you nail those allow you to fully express that fitness you have across the other sections. All right, let's get into it. So we're going to start at the shortest distance. So we'll start with two 5K predictor workouts that I think are really good. And I'm assuming in most of these workouts, unless I give the caveat, you're kind of doing this in a regular training week. You're coming into them, but you haven't done a full taper into them and are racing them at full capacity, you probably are carrying a little bit of fatigue, maybe from a long run the weekend before or a workout a few days before. So you're at still like 80 to 90% of full capacity. You have the chance to do solid work on this, but you're not fully tapered like you would be for the race effort. So first 5K predictor workout is a 5 by 1K workout, but within the 1K, I get athletes to do 800 meters at the 5K pace and 200 meters a little bit faster. So in kilometers, that might be something in the 3 to 8 seconds per kilometers faster. It's not an insane change of pace, but it's a decent like clip to close on that. So you end up running about 5 by 1K, a bit faster than 5K pace in the end. There is 2 minutes easy jog or rest between these intervals. So take that 2 minutes, reset, grab a drink, and then hit the next one. Great one to do on a track, especially if you're racing a flat 5K or find sort of a 1K loop that's similar to your race loop, and you can do it on there. The second 5K predictor workout is 3 times 1 mile at goal 5K pace. So this is definitely a tough one, and we'll tell you if your pace is going to be sustainable or not. We do 3 minute jog rest between each of them. And it's usually good to maybe the first one, if you want to, like pin it right at goal 5K pace or start a couple seconds conservative. And then maybe you hit the second rep at goal 5K and maybe the third one very slightly faster or just 3 even reps. And the effort on the last one should feel very tough, but not quite all out, bleeding out the eyes like you are at the end of a 5K. But yeah, you're probably still going to be like hands on knees, breathing pretty hard, but you shouldn't have to like just be puking on the ground at the end of it. So the 3 by 1 mile is a super tough one. Let's move on to 10K. So these are two pretty simple ones that I use. First one is 5 by 2K at 10K pace. 2 to 3 minutes easy jog between each of those, or like walk shuffle during those. And if you can, aim to try and hit the last rep maybe slightly faster than goal race pace. Just shows if you're dialed in there that you should be able to maybe push a little bit beyond pace at the end. And you can always ease in on the first one slightly. So then you end up across 5 by 2K, which is 10K of work, having that at about 10K pace. But remember, this is a big taxing workout. So this one, you'll probably want to make sure you have 1 or 2 easy days leading into it. Maybe it's your Monday day off, Tuesday's an easy run with a couple strides to fire up the system, and then you're doing a workout like this. But you probably wouldn't want to have it if you did, say, a 20K long run on the Sunday and it was a decent one, maybe had a workout in it or was a hilly route, or you were getting used to long runs and then you had Monday off and then you're doing this on a Tuesday. It might not go that well. So maybe a couple easy days into it. You don't need a full taper, but give yourself a good chance on these two workouts. Same thing. Another one is 3 by 3K at 10K pace. We do 3 minutes easy jog between those. A little bit longer, more mentally challenged, but really get you ready for what you're up against in a 10K and can find that rhythm. Remember, 10K pace for most people is going to be just beyond our second threshold. So our LT2 lactate threshold. So we're going to be at these paces for 5 and 10K accumulating lactate at a rate where we can't clear it as quickly. So that's why you're going to really have to be mentally with it and be okay with the breathing being rapid and the legs starting to flood on these. You got to expect that and be able to get into that and really focus on using that lactate as fuel for your fire. And that will go a long way to allowing you to hit these workouts and be ready to go in your actual race. Moving on to the half marathon. So I got two different ones here, a broken up one and a long continuous. So one I've done many times that's really helped me towards my half marathons is doing 3 times 4 to 5K. So I've done it mostly as like 3 by 4K at goal half marathon pace. And I usually do 1K easy to moderate between there, get some fuel in, get some hydration, but it's not a full rest or anything. But being able to put together 12 to 15K of that work is usually a good spot to be. And how I like to do them is I actually like to do the first one maybe like 3 to 5 seconds per K slower than half marathon pace. Second one is at my goal half marathon pace, and third one I do a couple seconds quicker. So I think when I had some of my best races, I would do like 3 by 4K, and I would end up being about 4 seconds per K slower in the first one, right on pace in the second one, 4 seconds per K faster in the third rep. Sorry, US athletes here. I'm doing it in paces per K, but 1.6 on top of that for mile stuff. The second half marathon predictor workout I really like to get athletes to do is either like a 7 to 8 mile, which is like around 12K continuous. So you'll do a solid warm up. Remember, with all these workouts, I don't think I prefaced that, but these workouts should all have at least like 10 to 20 minutes of easy progressive jogging, starting at a super shuffle, like where you could nose breathe pretty much, up to maybe a little bit of a moderate pace. Maybe we're adding in 3 times 15 second sort of activation strides to fire up the legs, fire up the lungs, take 30 seconds between each of those, or walk back to where you started, and then take 1 or 2 minutes, let the heart rate come down, and get into these main sets. So just wanted to preface that because that's a key piece. And then obviously 5 to 10 minutes minimum cool down on all of these workouts after. We don't just jump right into these workouts. Always warm up and cool down. Those are super important to getting the body prepped, as well as signaling to the body that we're starting the recovery process with the cool down. So that second half marathon predictor workout, it would be something like doing your long run, which could be like a 20K long run. You might do like a 4K warm up, and then a couple strides, reset for a minute or two, and then do that like 12K continuous at half marathon pace. And then maybe do like 3 to 4K easy cool down after. And remember, these half marathon and marathon workouts, like I mentioned, you need to fuel these really well at race fueling, and get some practice in these fueling while you're running at race pace, so that you know how to take them in and not be choking yourself and not getting enough air, and that your body also knows how to process this while you're running at these paces. So I like that long continuous one, 7 to 8 miles. 12K continuous is a great spot to go there as well. Our final ones for today is the marathon predictor workouts. So first one I got in there is a 2 by 10K at goal marathon pace with 5 to 10 minutes easy jog between them. Or another nice option, you can put it all together. It takes a little bit more of a taper into it. So you might take like 3 to 4 easy days in this with some activation, but you could do this, like call it 3 to 6 weeks out from your race, but do a half marathon race at your marathon pace intensity, or even practice doing like 16K at marathon pace and closing maybe a little bit faster than that. And if you can hold the pace for like these segments without excessive strain on it, you're likely ready for the marathon when you are in your fastest shoes, a race environment, you have a taper, good conditions, fast course. All of that stuff adds up to being able to string it out over a longer period of time. So 2 by 10K or a half marathon race where you're targeting that marathon pace. Going for a full half marathon by yourself in training at that pace is can be a bit of a daunting task. So that's why if you can do it in a race environment and also get some practice there with your marathon, fueling your marathon gear and shoes, and then also get practicing getting water at the aid stations and knowing how to take that in by pinching the cup and sipping some of that at the aid stations. That's a great tool in a tune-up race like a half marathon. The next one is one I definitely love to do, and it's a 20 to 22 mile long run, or something in the like 30 to 35K sort of long run. This will be in kind of your peak weeks. And usually what I'll do is the first, call it, if we're doing say 20 miles or 32K, I might do something like the first 16 to 20K at like a sort of progressive, easy to moderate. You might work up to sort of the upper end of zone 2, where your breathing is still very much in control. You could still have a conversation. And then what we'll do is finish with the last, call it 8 to 10 miles, or like 12 to 16K at goal marathon pace. So what this does is you put a little bit of fatigue in the legs, you burn through a little bit of that fuel, and then if you can lock into marathon pace late in this run without breaking down, you're in a really good spot here, especially because our long runs usually come at the end of a solid training week. So you might have already had a hard workout during the week. You already have a decent bit of mileage in the legs. And if you can close out your week with something like this, I think it's one of the most reliable marathon predictors of being able to pull that out at the end of a training week under fatigue. Sweet. So that's kind of my some of my favorite predictor workouts. If you have any you really like, drop them in either the Spotify comments or comment on this YouTube video. I'd love to hear if you have any others. I'm always open to hearing what people have success with, whether it's easier or harder workouts or just different types of ways to do it. Would love to hear what your favorite workouts are on those. But hopefully these are helpful and allow you to find a good pace when you come down to your race day this fall. And if I don't talk to you, have a great fall running season. Lots of epic performances on the horizon. Have a good one. We'll see y'all next week.